Are we live? Are we live? Yes, it seems as though we might be live. Hello. Hello, Star Wars fans. It is Mike, a guy who loves Star Wars, here as always, on a Tuesday at 1 p.m. How are we doing today? That's good. Okay. So a lot of crazy stuff, of course. This week is Christmas. And yes, even Darth Vader celebrates Christmas. But us as Star Wars fans are celebrating a little bit early this year because the amount of insane news we got over this last week is bonkers. This is literally by far one of the best weeks of Star Wars news, and it has been for the last 3 weeks, honestly. This last month for Star Wars news, after the Andor show ended, and Star Wars was like, maybe we got to get more fans into this thing called Star Wars. The Star Wars fan base is gigantic, right? And the views on the Andor show were so low, astronomically low, that it just doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. So what is going on here? Oh, what is up? It's Darth Lopez is at lunch at work. What are you eating, Darth Lopez? Okay, so all right, we gotta talk Ahsoka. We gotta talk Bad Batch. We gotta talk Skeleton Crew. We gotta talk about a ton of different stuff today. So it's a ton of fun stuff today because it's Christmas, and for Star Wars fans, it's Christmas time. It's the holiday season, and especially for us Star Wars fans, because the amount of insane news we got about the Ahsoka show alone. Don't even add in the fact that we got Skeleton Crew news and even the Mandalorian news and the Bad Batch Season 2 news, which again, the Bad Batch Season 2 is what, like 2 weeks away? It's 2 weeks or like 15 days, something like that, 15 days. So it is right around the corner, and that's going to be insane. So let's start off with the Bad Batch. Let's start off. Darth Lopez, tell me what you're eating for lunch, please. Please. Okay, so let's start off with the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch Season 2 surprise cameos teased. Okay, so there was a few surprise cameos in the first season. Whoa. That was clear. We had Cad Bane, we had Fennec Shand, we had Hera Syndulla, a young Hera Syndulla, which was really cool, in Bad Batch Season 1. So there has to be some cool cameos or surprise cameos in Season 2 as well. Obviously, the show also started off with Kanan Jarrus in the first episode. So, cameos teased. Of course, we saw Commander Cody in the trailer, which, yeah, it's whatever. But they're saying that there is definitely going to be some cameos. We also saw Gungi in the trailer, a former Jedi, alongside of Palpatine. Palpatine was also in the trailer. So there's already a ton of fun cameos in the trailer itself, like Captain Rex and Commander Cody. But there's also going to be crazy cameos that we didn't see in the trailer. So obviously they're not going to tell us in this article who these crazy cameos are, but as fans we can definitely speculate. So let's speculate about this for a second. Who could we see at this time in Star Wars in the Bad Batch show? Of course Palpatine, of course Gungi, of course Commander Cody, of course Captain Rex. But who else? We saw Hera Syndulla in the first season. We saw Kanan in the first season. So who would we possibly see in this next season? Now let me throw a crazy one out there, and it would be wild to bring him into animation before you bring him into live action, but Cal Kestis. Now you have to remember Cal Kestis is a lot younger at this time. When Order 66 happens, he's a Padawan, a very young Padawan. And he remembers his master dying, and you get that whole flashback scene in the Jedi Fallen Order game. But who would you might see like Cal Kestis? That would be a huge cameo. What's up, Star Wars Politics? Star Wars Politics says, I think the Star Wars Plan 99 is going to be a mission to reverse Order 66 and the clones revolt. So that's a great theory. So they came out with the episode names, the names for the episodes, and one of them was Plan 99, I do believe. So what that plan is going to be is Star Wars Politics. By the way, go follow Star Wars Politics. Great guy. He thinks it's going to be a mission like to reverse Order 66. Order 66, of course, had all the clones turn, but he's saying that Plan 99 is to reverse Order 66, bring all the clones back to, get rid of their microchips or whatever, get them back to normal. And you guys hearing that? I'm getting a weird popping noise over here. All right, whatever. But is to reverse Order 66 and have it so that all the clones revolt and actually fight back. Now, this is a great theory, and I honestly think this would be so cool to see because, honestly, the clones kind of just got crapped on, and you don't see them in the original trilogy. So, of course, there's millions upon millions of clones, so what do they just kill them all off? This would be a very cool thing to see all their inhibitor chips either like malfunction or taken out, and they all begin to revolt. We see in the trailer when Crosshair is talking to Commander Cody, he tells him that the clones are a little bit off. They don't seem to be the same way that they were beforehand. And Crosshair says, well, they're traitors like the Jedi too. Pretty much, if they don't serve the Emperor and the Empire, they're traitors. So maybe, just maybe, like Star Wars politics is staying right here, we will see the clones revolt, and we will see Order 66 try to get reversed. Now, it obviously will fail miserably and probably end up in a lot of clones dying, because, of course, a huge event like that would actually impact Star Wars in a big, big way and would be talked about for years after, especially in shows like Andor or the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. There would be a talk about a clone uprising after the return of the Empire. So I think, although they could revolt and Order 66 could try to be reversed, it's unlikely that they will get any damage done, and a lot of clones will end up dying. You like my cup today? Look at this thing. It's epic. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. It's Grogu. Does it get any better than Grogu? I don't know if it does. We'll get to Grogu in a second, but for right now, we're talking Bad Batch Season 2. So, yes. Cameos. Back to cameos. Cal Kestis. Could we see Cal Kestis in animation? We've seen him in the games. Could we see him in animation before we see him in live action? Because, yes, they have to bring Cal Kestis into live action. At this point, it's like, what are they waiting for? Let's bring Cal Kestis into live action. They're probably waiting for Mando Season 3, or maybe even the Ahsoka show, or maybe even the Skeleton Crew show. Who knows where Cal Kestis is at the time in the galaxy, or if he's even still alive. I really hope so, but he's not in the original trilogy, so he has to show up somewhere, somehow. And of course, in Jedi Survivors, we'll see where his story ends up by the end of that game. Because, of course, where we left off with him in the end of Fallen Order was he fought Vader. And he survived a fight with Vader, which not many people do. So Cal Kestis is clearly an important character and by far a fan favorite character just from one game. So a second game and bringing him into live action. But could we see him in animation in the Bad Batch first? I think we will also see, of course, Bail Organa was in the trailer, but where Bail Organa is, you have to remember that Leia is also there. Now, Leia would be extremely young, a little child still, but maybe you could see a very, very, very young Princess Leia, like a 2-3-year-old Princess Leia, like a little toddler Princess Leia. But along those same lines, in the Tales of the Jedi, which we just got, Tales of the Jedi, we saw Ahsoka at Padme's funeral, and Bail Organa comes up to her and gives her this whatever, says, call to me if you want to help, whatever. And she goes off, does her own thing for a while, and then says, okay, I need to help. The Empire is bad. The Inquisitors are here. She fights an Inquisitor. And all that fun stuff happens in Tales of the Jedi, and she actually calls out to Bail Organa. So Bail Organa now is working with Ahsoka, who we know becomes Fulcrum and works with the Rebels. So maybe it's possible that the connection between Bail Organa being in the trailer could bring in Ahsoka Tano into the Bad Batch Season 2, which would be wild, absolutely wild to see Ahsoka again in animation in the Bad Batch Season 2. It would explain where she was at this time after Order 66 and before she kind of becomes the Fulcrum character. Because, of course, we see her in Star Wars Rebels. We see her going around doing her own thing and being the Fulcrum for the Rebels. But we don't know what she does before that. Star Wars Politics, and again, he says, I also think this, quote, big mission is going to rescue a Jedi. Wow. Kind of like the Underground Railroad reference in Episode 3. Okay, now that would be pretty wild. So he's talking about Episode 3 of the Kenobi show when Kenobi goes in and Kenobi and Leia are trying to leave the planet of what the hell's the name of that planet? When Vader comes strolling down the street, and it's the first rematch between Obi-Wan and Vader, and he drags Obi-Wan through the flames. He's talking about that episode when they go into the back room, and there's this tunnel in the back, and other Jedi have been through there, like why am I blanking on his name? Quinlan Vos. Like, Quinlan Vos has been through there. So there is some Jedi who have been moved around, and they talked about that a little bit in the Kenobi show. So maybe this big mission could be saving a Jedi like Gungi, or maybe even another Jedi that we don't yet see in the trailer or somewhere else. Maybe it could be a guy like, who knows, any Jedi who could have survived, like a Quinlan Vos. Maybe it's Quinlan Vos. Maybe the Bad Batch are fighting alongside / saving Quinlan Vos, which would be absolutely insane. It would be a lot of fun to see another Jedi survive Order 66. Maybe it's a new Jedi that we've never met yet, or maybe it's a very young Cal Kestis, which would be, again, awesome. So maybe we will see the Bad Batch have a big mission to save a Jedi in the Underground Railroad type reference thing that we saw in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show in episode 3. That's a great point. That could be a huge part of the show, saving a Jedi, because they do talk about this one big mission in the trailer that will set them up for their future for good. Pretty much, they're just set for life, if that's the case. Okay. All right, any last minute points on the Bad Batch, because we got to move on to the Ahsoka show. I am so unbelievably hyped for the Ahsoka show. It was already most people's most anticipated show, and now it's like just piling on, like, oh my goodness, this just keeps getting better, and better. But before we even get to that, let's watch this. The early Star Wars or Disney Plus or whoever released this streaming in 2023. So all their stuff's streaming in 2023, and we got a good look, or first look actually, at some Star Wars content. So let's watch this thing. Hang on, let me pull it up here. Boom, boom. We won't watch it with volume, just so we don't get, whatever. Disney Plus, boom. And it starts right away with The Mandalorian. The first thing you see is Mando and Grogu. They're in some, like, cave. This could be Mandalore. Now, you have to remember back to Season 7 of The Clone Wars, when Ahsoka is going through the tunnels of Mandalore looking for Maul. And that kind of is what it looks like here in the background there. So The Mandalorian Season 3 is obviously going to be a huge thing in 2023, and that's what Disney Plus, this isn't Star Wars, this is Disney itself, starts off their trailer with. You got to look at something else. You got Loki, Wakanda Forever, if you're a Marvel fan. You got some Pixar stuff. Ahsoka. So this is the first official look at Ahsoka Tano in the Ahsoka show. So this is Rosario Dawson, of course. She seems to be on a desert-y-ish planet. Kind of, maybe, sort of. Kind of actually looks like Lothal, if you see that, like, rock thing in the back, because those are kind of Lothal-esque rocks that we saw in Star Wars Rebels, which would be very cool. Very, very cool. If we saw Lothal in the Ahsoka show, which is probably likely. The Ahsoka leaks are bonkers, like Anakin Skywalker, The World Between Worlds. We'll get to it. But this is the first official look at Ahsoka Tano. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a different headpiece than she has in The Mandalorian Season 2 and in the Book of Boba Fett, correct? She has a different look, I do believe, in the Book of Boba Fett when she's at Luke's Jedi Temple, which again is wild. She's talking to Luke Skywalker, which is her master's son. Wild stuff. But this is the first official look at Ahsoka Tano. Pretty wild. We got Wakanda Forever still. Secret Invasions if you're a Marvel fan. Peter Pan. They're making a new Peter Pan. Mandalorian again. We've seen this clip before in the trailer. It's Mando and Grogu in the cockpit of their N1 starfighter. Grogu's the best. You get another look at Mandalorians. Actually, pretty good look at the owl-faced ones over here. There's going to be a ton, like tens if not hundreds of Mandalorian in the Mandalorian Season 3. They're going to come out from everywhere. And you see them dropping out of this plane right here. Or whatever, ship. There's going to be a ton of them. Loki, if you're a Loki fan, that's the first look you got at Loki Season 2. More Pixar stuff. And I think, yeah, you got another. Oh, okay. Well, geez, don't go any faster. Look at this. Like, how am I supposed to pause that? Come on. Ooh, maybe I can. Let's see. How good am I? Oh, I guess not good at all. What the heck? Oop, oop. Oh, damn it. Alright, I give up. We gotta look at the Bad Batch and another picture of the Mandalorian, but I'm too lazy to try and click and pause it at the same time, so. Alright. Now let's get to Ahsoka. Because Ahsoka literally has gotten me just way just that's my brain when I think about the Ahsoka leaks, because it's just absolutely bonkers. Brandon in today, Brandon Hoffman says, I do wonder if the clone inhibitor chip being programmed to have the kill switch on it could immediately kill the clone host. Let's say if the Emperor said execute Order 99 or something, it would kill them all. Now that is pretty wild. If Palpatine was just like execute Order 99 and all clones ever just died, imagine that with an inhibitor in their chip in their head. So Bad Batch would be set, Captain Rex would be set, all the clones that took their inhibitor chip out would be okay, but the millions of other clones that they still have that are still alive would all just get killed off. Now that makes a lot of sense. Brandon has a point here, because all the clones don't exist. They turn into stormtroopers, and stormtroopers are trained people. They aren't clones grown in a lab. So, and we already saw kind of the beginning of the switch from clones to stormtroopers in Bad Batch Season 1. So what if Palpatine just came on and said execute Order 99 and all the clones just died? That would be wild. Obviously the Bad Batch would be safe. We know that the Bad Batch don't survive till the original trilogy. They obviously age faster than usual still, so they're going to be a lot older by the original trilogy, but they also aren't in the original trilogy. Now I know you could say that Mando's not in the original trilogy, you could say that Ahsoka's not in the original trilogy, you could say that a bunch of these characters aren't in the original trilogy that exist after the original trilogy, but the Bad Batch don't seem to be one of them in my mind. I think we are going to see the death of the Bad Batch. Maybe not in Season 2, but maybe in Season 3 or 4, if they make a Season 3 or 4 of the Bad Batch. So we're definitely at some point going to see the end of the Bad Batch, but when do we see the end of the millions of clones that were manufactured? Maybe it's in this way, like Brandon's saying. Maybe Palpatine just comes out and says, execute Order 99, and they all just die. It would be pretty cool, and it would make sense if Palpatine made them so that they would switch like that to kill people. Why wouldn't he put a kill switch in them just in case they turned on him? It's a great point and a great theory. I mean, Brandon, that's spot on. Spot on. If I do say so myself. All right, Ahsoka time. I can't. We talked about it. We talked about Bad Batch. I did my due diligence. I need to talk about Ahsoka. This is absolutely wild. And we'll start with the Making Star Wars report. I'm sure you've all seen it by now. Okay, all right. Last thing from Star Wars Politics. Vader, for sure, kills Crosshair in this season, calling it right now. Holy crap. You heard it here first, folks. Star Wars Politics just called Vader kills Crosshair. What? Vader kills Crosshair? Crosshair is the only Bad Batch who hasn't flipped yet. Of course, we know that. But maybe he does flip. Or maybe, like Brandon said before, all the clones get killed off and Crosshair survives because he doesn't have the inhibitor chip, and then Vader has to come in and kill him. That would be wild. Crazy prediction. All right, Ahsoka time. MakingStarWars.net. That's where this one comes from. Making Star Wars is a fantastic source. They're right almost all of the time, and it is fantastic to see them doing this one because this is absolutely wild. All right, exclusive. Young Ahsoka and World Between Worlds. And if you thought that was crazy, let me read on. Okay, I gotta zoom this in. Hang on. Yeah, keep going. Okay, there we go. During production of the Ahsoka show, blah, 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 blah. We're going to skip forward. All right, whatever. We'll read the whole thing. Okay. All right, we'll start here. To be clear, there is another young actor playing Ahsoka Tano. Now, there are theories about who this girl is. Some people believe that it's a girl from Game of Thrones, I think. we'll talk about that later. In the Ahsoka show, it is not it is not Rosario Dawson, nor is it Ashley Eckstein. So Ashley Eckstein is the girl who voiced Ahsoka in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. So she is not going to be the actress playing her, but maybe she's voicing her. We don't know that yet. Can't be confirmed whether or not Ashley Eckstein is voicing the young Ahsoka at this time. To be clear, these are glimpses or small sequences, and Dawson will play Ahsoka during the majority of the show. So Rosario Dawson still is Ahsoka. And these young Ahsoka scenes are just glimpses or small sequences in the show. We, the audience, will get a glimpse of Tano in other times via the world between worlds. This is... Okay, hey, remain calm. Remain calm. There is a version of Ahsoka in her late teens. Yup. One of another undisclosed time, which is probably present-day Ahsoka. And finally, a version that we saw in the final moments of Star Wars Rebels in her magical white robes. Magical being the key word here, but her magical white robes. So the final scene of the Star Wars Rebels, in the epilogue of Star Wars Rebels, after Thrawn and Ezra disappear into now what is called the New Beyond, we see Ahsoka go to Lothal, where Sabine is waiting for her, and they go on an adventure together. We assume to find Thrawn and Ezra. But right now, this is saying that we're going to see that in live action. We're going to see Ahsoka in the final moments of Star Wars Rebels in her white robes, which is awesome. She looks like Gandalf the White in that. It's a whole cool thing. Okay, my Darth Vader sources, cool, he's got his own Darth Vader sources, have confirmed that Ahsoka will fight Darth Vader. I mean, come on. It doesn't get much better than this. Ahsoka is fighting Darth Vader. And it gets even better. Hang on. In more than one way. And Hayden Christensen required some training for a sequence in the series because we will see his face again on screen wearing the same costume he wore on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. Let's take a pause. Let's just take a breather for a second. Let's take a quick breather from this article because holy crap. What? Hayden Christensen, in the same costume he wore on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. Let that sink in. We're talking Obi-Wan versus Anakin on Mustafar. The greatest fight, lightsaber fight in Star Wars, hands down. Nobody can argue with me. I am right. I only speak the truth. Fight in Star Wars, by far. Right? Of course. And we're going to see it again with Ahsoka there instead of Obi-Wan. Let's read on. Let's continue. Let's continue. Okay. We will see many possible outcomes for Ahsoka's life and how, in essence, no matter what, they all lead to a particular moment in her story. If Ahsoka had returned to the Jedi Order, she would be the one fighting Darth Vader on Mustafar, having the high ground, not Obi-Wan, because what happened had to happen to get Ahsoka to where she and the Skywalkers needed to be. I can also confirm Hayden Christensen filmed fight scenes with Clone Wars Ahsoka in this scenario. So we're talking about a young Ahsoka having to fight Anakin on Mustafar, having the high ground, it all playing out in the same way. She chops off Anakin's limbs, he burns, he becomes Vader, because everything has to happen to lead to where Ahsoka and the Skywalkers end up. Nothing can be changed. She's going into the world between worlds to try and save Anakin, to try to save Ezra, to try and save everybody. And it doesn't work because everything has to happen the way that it happens. This is a crazy take on the whole time travel thing. It's a crazy take on the whole world between worlds. This is just wild. Let's keep reading. Through the world between worlds. Again, crazy that the world between worlds is back, but it seems present-day Ahsoka will learn that Anakin Skywalker is destined to take the path that he did, and we, the audience, will see aspects of those outcomes, and in some of them, we will see a live-action Clone Wars Ahsoka Tano, played by a new actor in a duel with her former Jedi Master, taking the place of Obi-Wan, in a reality that never was. So she is going to be there instead of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's not there. So maybe we will get a look at a young Obi-Wan in the show, because we know Ewan's been around. Ewan McGregor's back. He wants to play Obi-Wan. He wants to play him as much as he can. So this will be absolutely bonkers if we see Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor back as their roles like we saw this last year, but on Mustafar, but during the Clone Wars or during Revenge of the Sith. Let's keep going. Ahsoka will also see other versions in this sequence. This is also crazy. It has nothing to do with Anakin, but had Ahsoka killed Thrawn, and Ezra Bridger did not need to use the portals, which are the whale things that sent them into the New Beyond, Ahsoka's destiny will remain the same. The lesson for Tano appears to be that she cannot change her destiny and instead must embrace it. So, in essence, it sounds like the Ahsoka works through her regrets, and this is why she is so centered and at peace when she is with Luke Skywalker. So, that last sentence means that all of this, the whole Ahsoka show, is going to take place before the Book of Boba Fett, and most likely before Mando Season 2, because she seems to be at peace and centered with all of this during that time when we see her with Luke in the Book of Boba Fett. So, my question to you guys is, do you think Ahsoka's just going to be absolutely torn apart after Ezra leaves, after Thrawn leaves, and just knowing the fact that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker and her master, and her leaving the Jedi Order seemed to be the reason that he didn't trust the Jedi and that he turned to the dark side? Because a lot of Anakin Skywalker's turn to the dark side is because of Ahsoka Tano. It is kind of her fault. So when you think about it that way, and I'm sure Ahsoka's thinking about it that way, she has to go into the world between worlds to try to change that. So my question to you is, when do you think this is going to happen? And do you think that Ahsoka is actually going to just be torn apart when we see her in this show? Because she's going to be seeing and reliving all of these events, and honestly, that would just tear her apart. No? I mean, yeah. Well, let's think about it this way. Ahsoka Tano actually. So the epilogue in Star Wars Rebels, Dave Filoni has not confirmed when this actually takes place, and a lot of people believe that it takes place after the Battle of Endor, so after the Empire is finally gone. So we see white-robed Ahsoka Tano after the Battle of Endor. So after she knows that Vader's dead, after she knows that the Empire's gone, after she knows that Ezra and Thrawn are obviously gone. But this is all maybe even after the Ahsoka show takes place. So maybe, just maybe, the Ahsoka show could take place before any of the Mandalorian timeline things. Maybe it takes place right after Episode 6, right after Return of the Jedi. That's just what I'm thinking. Because Ahsoka is clearly a different version of Ahsoka than we're reading in this article. She seems broken. She seems wanting to go back and fix everything. But she can't, and she figures out that destiny is supposed to happen this way, and that's why she's so centered, and that's why she's so at peace when we see her in the Book of Boba Fett. Okay, now we got to talk about what is Disney doing. Dave Filoni is a freaking genius, okay? You read that article, and you're like, that's all Dave Filoni right there. He created the world between worlds, and we didn't think we would ever see it again, but this is a perfect way to bring it back and to use it in the correct light. You think about the world between worlds could be used in such stupid ways to go back and fix stupid events. But this means that everything has to happen the way that it did. Meaning Ezra was made to go into the world between worlds and save Ahsoka. Ahsoka was made to survive. Everything happened for a reason, and going back into the world between worlds and trying to change an event will not work. She will try to save Anakin. She will try to rejoin the Jedi Order. She will try to kill Thrawn to save Ezra, and none of it will work. None of it. Destiny remains the same. Dread it, run from it. Destiny arrives still the same. It's like Thanos out here in Star Wars. It truly is. It's like Thanos is literally sitting there on his rock in Endgame, and he's in control. So it seems to be a lot of fans are upset that, like, oh, the World Between Worlds, time travel, we don't want to see any of that. We don't want it to ruin what's going on with Star Wars. We don't want the World Between Worlds, pretty much. That's the basis. We don't want the World Between Worlds because they think that time travel will ruin Star Wars. Seeing all these different scenarios will ruin Star Wars. But I actually disagree. I think the World Between Worlds will actually be explained and prove to fans, actually prove to these fans, that it is the right thing to have and explain that it cannot affect the past. It can only affect the future, and destiny also still remains the same. Everything will remain the same because Ahsoka will figure out that she can't change the past. In Star Wars, the canon, all of it will stay the same. We'll just get to see awesome clips of Ahsoka trying to fight Anakin on Mustafar. We'll get awesome clips of Ahsoka killing Thrawn instead of letting Ezra go. That means we'll get live-action Thrawn, by the way. That means we'll get live-action Ezra, by the way. That means we'll get a live-action Clone Wars version of Ahsoka. And again, Hayden Christensen back as Anakin on Mustafar. It just doesn't get better than this. You talk about so many people wanted to see at the end of Clone Wars Season 7, they wanted to see a animated version of the battle on Mustafar. This is a live-action battle on Mustafar. Just replace Obi-Wan with Ahsoka. What? This is bonkers. This is absolutely bonkers. All right, let's keep going because I got even more than this. I'm just getting started. So actually, we'll talk about this for a second. For a quick sec, because we just talked about this when we watched the video. Disney reveals first look at Rosario Dawson. So first look at Disney Plus is Rosario Dawson. So we saw this. We'll zoom in on it. We saw this in the trailer. Whoop. Can I open this? Open as new tab. I'm a genius. Oh, okay. And then we'll zoom in on it here. So we saw this in the trailer. Boom. Ahsoka Tano. She's got a different headdress, I do believe, over her forehead. She looks fantastic. I mean, like, this kind of looks like Lethal. Live-action Ahsoka, it still blows my mind to this day that we still have live-action Ahsoka. And a lot of fans argue that these aren't long enough or whatever, but it's live-action. You think about characters like Count Dooku and Palpatine in the Clone Wars versus their look in live-action. You're crazy. Like, she looks fine. So we got a first look at Ahsoka Tano. But it is actually confirming that it will be in 2023. Now, we knew it was probably coming in 2023. But we didn't, it never was actually confirmed that it would be in 2023, you know. So, which Star Wars cameos are expected in Ahsoka Tano? So this is hard to say. Maybe Luke Skywalker, like it says here. Maybe Captain Rex, like it says there. Most likely, it's not going to be Din Djarin or Grogu, just because we see them so often, but definitely going to see Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader, and Anakin Skywalker, maybe even Obi-Wan Kenobi, maybe even Boba Fett. You never know with this show who you could see. We're going to see Thrawn, we're going to see Ezra, we're going to see Sabine, we're going to see Hera Syndulla, but there could be a possibility that we see Night Sisters, that we see the girl that she fought in The Mandalorian Season 2, that we see crazy, crazy cameos in the Ahsoka show. Whoops. We'll get to that in a second. So, who do you actually think we could see in Ahsoka? Of course, we'll see Anakin, a young Anakin, Hayden Christensen, maybe even an Obi-Wan, maybe even a Master Yoda, because remember, she says she's returning to the Jedi Order, so maybe even a Mace Windu. Like, if maybe Samuel L. Jackson says, I want to come back to play Mace Windu, and not after he dies, but before he dies. Maybe Ahsoka comes back before Mace dies, and we get to see a Samuel L. Jackson. Maybe we see, we'll definitely see Sabine, we'll definitely see Ezra, we'll definitely see Thrawn. But who else? Who else could we possibly see? We could see a Zeb. Maybe Zeb's still alive. Oh, Chopper? Chopper in live action for the first time? A lot of people's favorite droid is Chopper. Who else? Who could we possibly see in this show? I mean, it's endless when she's going into the World Between Worlds. We could see Palpatine. We could see literally anybody. So who? Maul maybe? Darth Maul? Live action Darth Maul would be sick. Who else? Who else do you guys want to see in the Ahsoka show? Who do you want to see? Maybe not who will show up, but who do you want to see? Because honestly, with the World Between Worlds and with the time and connections that the character of Ahsoka Tano has, we could see anybody. Literally anybody. Because think about it. Ahsoka is connected to all the Skywalkers. She's connected to all the Jedi. She's connected to the Rebels cast. She's connected to almost everybody. So who do you think we'll see? Brendan back in the chat says, I do wonder if when in the Clone Wars, the episode where Ahsoka embarrassed the dark side and died. Oh, embraced or embarrassed? Embraced the dark side and died. Maybe Anakin saw her future and embraced his fate as Vader saving her from her own future. Hang on, I gotta read that again. I do wonder if when in the Clone Wars, the episode where Ahsoka embraced, we'll say, the dark side and died, maybe Anakin saw her future and embraced his fate as Vader, saving her from her own future. So you're saying, if I read that correctly, it took me a second, you're saying that you think when they were on Mortis and Anakin saw the future and saw that if Ahsoka went to the dark side, she would die, he turned to the dark side to save Ahsoka? So you're saying, let me piece this together, and Brendan, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're trying to tell me is that Anakin turns to the dark side to save Ahsoka Tano. Now that would be bonkers. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Yup. Okay. Brandon, that would be wild. Let's be honest, that would be insanity. That would be so Anakin, what Brandon's trying to tell us right now, people. What Brandon is saying is Anakin goes to the dark side to save Ahsoka. And not only that, of course, he goes to the dark side and ends up saving the whole galaxy from Palpatine, but that took a couple of years and he killed a bunch of people. But his connection to Ahsoka was so strong that it led him to fall to the dark side because of the way that he felt about Ahsoka. Now, this is actually possible because, yes, like you said, we saw it in the Clone Wars. We saw it in that episode that he saw what happened to Ahsoka in this Force vision, and he made sure that that didn't happen. So maybe Brandon's on the right track here. Maybe he's talking straight facts when he says that Vader, or Anakin, turns into Vader to save Ahsoka. And maybe Ahsoka goes back into the World Between Worlds to change that. Maybe she finds out that is the case. Maybe she finds out that that is why Anakin turned to the dark side, and she goes back to try to change that. But like we've seen in Revenge of the Sith, nothing is changing Anakin's mind. He will get what he wants. He will save Padme. Save Padme. Literally, I'm going to save you, Padme. Literally chokes her on Mustafar. Genius. So maybe there's another reasoning to it. Maybe it's because he's not only trying to change the future that he saw of Padme dying, but also the future that he saw of Ahsoka dying. Would be pretty wild. Would be pretty wild. All right, let's move on to the Skeleton Crew news because, again, just like the Ahsoka news, not as wild, but pretty wild. Pretty wild. Skeleton Crew. You guys excited for the Skeleton Crew? Tell me in the comments if you guys are in the chat. You guys excited for the Skeleton Crew? Because if you aren't, I'm about to get you extremely excited for the Skeleton Crew show. By the end of the stream, you might be more excited for the Skeleton Crew show than anything else you've ever seen. So it has yet to be confirmed whether or not we'll get the Skeleton Crew in 2023, but it's most likely fall or winter of 2023. So at first, we'll talk about this. We get a first look at Jude Law's character in the Skeleton Crew. So Jude Law, very famous actor, Oscar-winning, I do believe, is in Skeleton Crew series. One of the main characters of the Skeleton Crew series is Jude Law. So, new look at Jude Law. So this is him. He's in a hood. He's clearly hiding. We don't really know where he is or what he's doing. But it says Law is donning a set of dark robes and holding his hands up and hiding behind a pillar. So it's difficult to see what he's doing, obviously. He's just hiding. He's in robes. It doesn't look like Jedi robes. I don't think by any means that Jude Law's character coming in here is going to be a Jedi. But you never know. Maybe he's a Force user. Who knows? But this promo spot is says the Skeleton Crew will arrive on Disney Plus sometime in 2023. So actually, there you go. No specific release date, but 2023. Well, there you go. It is coming in 2023. So, yeah, it's most likely going to be the end of 2023, but yeah. So now let me get you extremely excited for the Skeleton Crew show with this next article. Star Wars is reportedly bringing witches to live action. So witches have already been in Star Wars. In the Clone Wars, we saw the Night Sisters. We saw them in the Clone Wars. And, of course, Mother Talzin here. And Darth Maul and Savage Opress, they get magic done on them to become the beasts that they are. You even have character like Asajj Ventress, who is in with the Night Sisters as well. So the Night Sisters use magic, use the Force, and use magic in the same ways as using the Force. So maybe, just maybe, Star Wars will bring these witches or Night Sisters into live action. So this is what we're talking about. This is in the Skeleton Crew show. Now, a lot of people thought that we'd see the Night Sisters in the Ahsoka show, but now it seems as though the Ahsoka show is going to be more centered around Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds and her trying to cope with everything that happened. Which makes sense. But rumor has it Star Wars is finally bringing its Force witches to live action in the Skeleton Crew show. It is true that the Night Sisters have been kind of neglected. They were introduced in the Clone Wars, and they were kind of talked about in other places. You see one in Jedi Fallen Order, but really, no Night Sisters. Previously, it was revealed how Ahsoka Tano would be exploring an entirely new era of space, never before seen, along with Thrawn as the big bad. So yes, we talked about it last week, the new beyond. It is absolutely wild. It's a new place in Star Wars, and that's where the Ahsoka show is going to go, and the Skeleton Crew is most likely going to take place. So that show was also said to introduce new concepts, which will carry over into other shows down the line. Talking about the Ahsoka show, all these new concepts will carry on down the line into the Skeleton Crew show. Interestingly, easy for you to say, enough. In the same report, it is said that Ivana, I'm not even going to try that last name, I'm sorry, Ivana, but would be playing a Night Sister or Light Sister in the Rosario Dawson-led show. So there may be a Night Sister or a Light Sister in the Ahsoka show. For reference, the race of the alien was last seen in the animated Clone Wars show. So these new rumors indicate that they'll be playing a big part in the next upcoming Star Wars project known as the Skeleton Crew. So thanks to making Star Wars again, of course, they're the best. The outlet reveals that Jude Law is the lead of the Disney Plus show, will intersect with the Ahsoka series by exploring the origins of the Night Sisters. The group of Force users who were also referenced as witches and first seen in the Clone Wars and rumored to show up in Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka show. So these are the Night Sisters. That's Mother Talzin. These are other Night Sisters behind her. The Night Sisters are an ancient society that once made their home on Dathomir, which is where Maul and Savage Opress are from, where Darth Maul came from. Okay, I didn't just say that. They also have the connection to the Clone Wars era Sith, Asajj Ventress. They tend to utilize the dark side of the Force without being consumed by it like the Sith. So they use the dark side of the Force, but they're not consumed by the dark side of the Force. We see in the Clone Wars, Grievous comes in with his droid army and kind of just craps all over them. But that's because there's so many clones and they can't do it. But the report then went on to share how they've seen images of masks for the production that include confirmation of Mon Cals, that's Mon Calinaris. Those are like the fish people. They can go underwater. Rhodians, cool, and other great hits. So this one I'm not even going to try and pronounce is the species of Hondo. So Hondo Ohnaka. If anybody remembers this guy, he's from Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars. He is an awesome pirate in the Clone Wars, and they kind of butcher him in the Rebels show, but that's okay. This is what he looks like in Clone Wars. He has a lot of interactions with Anakin and Obi-Wan. So why is Skeleton Crow? Why is Skeleton Crow's a skeleton of a crow? Why is Skeleton Crew so important to Star Wars? So as exciting as Jedi are, the Star Wars series will always lack when it comes to showcasing alternative Force users. Those who wield lightsabers in the Jedi and the Sith are far from the only ones who use the Force in power. So really, we haven't explored the Force all that much lately in Star Wars. We've only seen Jedi and Sith. That just seems to be the Force users. But there are other Force users and people who use the Force in different ways. A key example is previously the aforementioned Night Sisters. But there are other, such as the Path cult, seen in Phase 2 of the High Republic publishing. So the High Republic Part 2 just started, and if anybody's reading that, you know that there's this thing called the Path, and they're a cult that use the Force in a different way. They're not the Sith, they're not the Jedi, they're the Path. So, yeah. Well, this actress girl, Ivana's witch, it will seemingly appear in Ahsoka. If she is indeed a light sister or a night sister, it feels like the character will almost certainly go into this go into the Skeleton Crew show as well. So we will see at least one night sister in both the Ahsoka show and the Skeleton Crew show. Also, if Ahsoka is exploring as many new concepts as rumored like the New Beyond and new Force users, and assuming some of this blends over into the Skeleton Crew, the new show will be far more important than anybody expected. I literally made a video on this last week saying the Skeleton Crew is so much more important than you guys even know. It is like so huge for Star Wars because it's going to go into the New Beyond, and it's going to have characters like Ahsoka and, of course, Jude Law's character and the Night Sisters. So the Skeleton Crew is extremely important, and it seems like most Star Wars fans just don't get that yet. They don't see the actual importance of this show. That's even more true if the Jude Law led series will bring Hondo into live action, which would be also very cool because he's only been in animation. So yes, the Skeleton Crew show is going to be extremely important, and I can't stress that enough because so many people just don't seem to believe me when I say it. It is so extremely important and people just don't see it. It's going to explore the New Beyond. It's going to have a whole brand new cast of characters. It's going to bring in Jude Law's character into Star Wars, and just so many people don't see the importance of it and what it means for the future of Star Wars moving forward. It means that the sequel trilogy could be saved. I know there's a ton of sequel fans out there, and I don't want to anger them too much, but you cannot deny that there's some problems when it comes to the sequel trilogy. And the lack of characters like Ahsoka Tano and like Grogu and like Din Djarin and like Jude Law's character, maybe even now, the lack of them not being there could be explained by this New Beyond or a bigger threat somewhere else in the galaxy like Thrawn. That those just main cast of characters like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Rey, Kylo Ren, Finn, they just didn't have the time for or didn't even know about because it was in a new sector of the galaxy, or just because they were dealing with the fact that Palpatine somehow has returned. So there could be a way in which post-sequel trilogy, those sequel characters that some people seem to love, like Rey and Finn, and maybe even they bring back Ben Solo, could interact with characters like Ahsoka, like Grogu, like Din Djarin if he's still alive, because maybe they were just off in the New Beyond, just chilling, fighting Thrawn, fighting bad guys, doing their thing, learning some wizardry, Force-using stuff, and maybe they come back with a bigger threat, and maybe that's what we'll see, because it seems to be still that 2025, which is the next Star Wars movie, is going to be a sequel movie. And I know a lot of people get angry about that. They don't want to see the sequels anymore. They don't want to see those characters anymore, but they made a lot of money. They made billions of dollars off those 3 movies, and Disney just doesn't seem to get it through their big head that people don't really want to see those characters anymore, at least for a little while. So the next thing they're doing is the sequels, and we're going to get them anyway. And maybe we'll see Grogu in there, and maybe it'll just make a lot of people happy. Who knows? Maybe they'll do the sequels correctly. Who knows? I don't want to get into the sequels too much, but with all that being said, talking sequels for a second here, Kathleen Kennedy. We talked about Kathleen Kennedy possibly getting fired, I think like 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago maybe. Kathleen Kennedy getting fired. Now, this is pretty wild because, honestly, a lot of people were like, yeah, she's definitely gone by the end of next year. Which I get. That's what a lot of people think because Indiana Jones 5 is kind of her project, and she's working on that really, really hard. Indiana Jones 5 honestly looks pretty good, but that's her thing, so they were thinking maybe she'll get fired after that, especially if it flops pretty badly. But her just handle on Star Wars is so poor that people just want to see her gone. Now I got good news for you people. Do you guys want to see Kathleen Kennedy gone? Anybody? Anybody want to see Kathleen Kennedy gone? Anybody? You want to see Kathleen Kennedy gone? Kathleen Kennedy, yay or nay? Should we keep her around? Should we keep the KK around? Anybody? Well, let me read this article for you and maybe you'll think differently. Oh, hang on. We got somebody. Star Wars politics, of course. I'm hoping the vote of no confidence in Kathleen Kennedy ends up like the Phantom Menace with a Palpatine. So you're saying that Kathleen Kennedy is going to get voted out due to a vote of no confidence, like Chancellor Valorum in the Phantom Menace, and then we're going to get a Palpatine come in right after her. So pretty much Star Wars is going to get buried, or do you think that it's going to be a good news scenario for Star Wars that the next person after Kathleen is going to save Star Wars? Because a lot of people do believe that Kathleen is actually kind of keeping Star Wars afloat, and if somebody else comes in, somebody worse than her comes in, Star Wars could actually tank and we could get it sold again from Disney, or maybe even it just goes under and we don't get any more Star Wars content, which would absolutely suck because, of course, we're here talking about Star Wars right now and we want to continue to talk about fun Star Wars things. We want to get hyped about new Star Wars shows and new Star Wars movies. But is it possible that the heir to Kathleen Kennedy could be worse? Could be worse than what Kathleen Kennedy was? It's a possibility, and it keeps me up at night, honestly, if we're talking about that, because honestly, anything worse than Kathleen Kennedy would be pretty bad. But let's take a look at this article for a second. Kathleen Kennedy signed severance deal with Lucasfilm, according to a new rumor. Of course, still rumors. But Kathleen Kennedy's signing a severance deal with Lucasfilm. Yeah. Okay. After 10 years as the Star Wars top dog, she is a top dog. Kathleen Kennedy may be planning her departure. Bye-bye. Walt Disney Company has gone through its turbulent times lately with the firing of Chapek, blah-bitty-blue-bitty-blah. But Kathleen Kennedy may be next to leave. After Bob Iger was reinstated as CEO in a shocking leadership change in November, executives expected him to make quick changes to the company's strategies. Their estimates were correct, and Disney announced a reduced movie and TV output for 2023. Now it seems that Lucasfilm is next to feel the effects of Disney's shakeup, with the longtime president, Kathleen Kennedy, rumored to have signed a severance package indicating her potential exit from the company. Now, this doesn't mean she's fired immediately. This doesn't mean she's going to be gone tomorrow. But this could mean that this could be her last year. This could be the last year. This could be her final hurrah as president of Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy's multi-million-dollar exit. Let's talk about it. Hollywood screenwriter Cameron, I think, Kamran, sure, appeared on a video for a YouTube channel and dropped an interesting rumor regarding Lucasfilm Kathleen Kennedy's potential multi-million-dollar closing deal. This is a quote from him. The claim is that I've been given is that the severance contract that she has closed it with Disney would give her between $25 and $30 million in severance. Let me repeat, $25 to $30 million in severance. So we're talking about the lady who did such a fantastic job with Star Wars over 10 years. She gets paid out $30 million. Kathleen, this is directly directed towards you, Kathleen. On what gives you the right? On what planet do you deserve $30 million to get away? They literally want you away from Star Wars so badly that they're willing to give you $30 million to kick you to the curb. You did so bad that they were like, 30 million? Pfft, goodbye. They're literally willing to throw $30 million at you to get you away. That's how they think you're doing with Star Wars. That's how Bob Iger thinks you're doing with Star Wars. Goodbye. 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 So the article goes on to talk about when Kathleen could be fired, and it's talking about July of 2023, which is right after the release of Indiana Jones, which again was still the rumor before, but now it's rumored that she has already closed the deal, already closed the severance package, that she's already guaranteed 25 to 30 mil easy money to just be kicked out, to just goodbye, Kathleen Kennedy. And who will come in next? That is the biggest question. Who do we want to come in as the replacement for Kathleen Kennedy? Do you want a Dave Filoni? Do you want a Jon Favreau? Or do you want somebody else? Because you want Dave Filoni working on the content. You want Jon Favreau working directly on the content, and having the CEO position would not be the ideal thing for them to be working on. Brandon chimes in and says, more like 30 million in damage prevention and repairs. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. 30 million to stop the bleeding. Pretty much. It's to stop what she's trying to do with Star Wars and bring in hopefully a good, fresh mind, but hopefully a better mind. And who do you guys want to be that mind? Because honestly, I don't think it should be Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is good where he is, working on the content, giving us crazy stuff like A World Between Worlds, Anakin versus Ahsoka on Mustafar type stuff. That is Dave's wheelhouse. That's where he wants to be. And maybe he could still do that as the CEO, but it would be a lot more work and it would be a lot harder. So we want somebody in the CEO spot who can do good, obviously, but do it correctly. And look what DC did. They put two co-CEOs in James Gunn and Peter Safran. And maybe that's the way to go. Peter Safran's going to cover all the business side, and James Gunn's going to cover all the creative side. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe they put Dave Filoni in the co-CEO seat with some business guy. Maybe that's possibly what they could possibly do, but we don't know. We don't really know. We can only just speculate in who we want to come in. Now, a lot of people have said, what's the guy's name? He was a producer on the prequel trilogy. Completely blanking on his name right now. What's his name? I don't know, but he worked on the prequel trilogy. He was a producer, so they want him to come in and be the CEO and overlook everything, which would be ideal. People love the prequels. People love that time. He worked with George. He worked with Dave. It would be a great replacement. But a lot of people are scared, like Star Wars Politics says, that he's hoping that the vote of no confidence in Kathleen doesn't end up with a Palpatine coming in and making things worse. Because it's possible. It is possible. Now, let me throw something absolutely wild out there for you. What if they kept Kathleen Kennedy around for a few more years? I know. What if they kept her around for a few more years, right? To like 2025-ish, let's say. And then Kevin Feige, who is done over at Marvel, he's like, all right, Marvel's in a good spot here. After Secret Wars is his last shebang. And maybe he says he wants to come do Star Wars. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Kevin Feige actually likes Star Wars more than he likes Marvel. I know it's crazy. The guy who's in charge of Marvel said that himself, that he likes Star Wars more. And this was when he was in talks to be directing a movie for Star Wars. But what if he wants to come in? He's already solidified himself as the greatest producer of all time. But what if he wants to come in and really just like make himself untouchable as the greatest producer of all time? Comes in and fixes the problems with Star Wars. Like gives us fantastic movies, brings us to the Old Republic or the High Republic or literally anything, any place in Star Wars, and gives us just good movies, and gives us the great shows as well. Gives us Mandalorian level shows with none of the lower level Like, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, for example. The finale, fantastic. Literally awesome. So good. The rematch of the century, epic. But the first 5, 6 episodes, or however many there were in that show, were all just kind of like moving the story along. Like episode 3 was very good when he got dragged through the flames, yes. And it was a good show overall. But it was just kind of not a great show. You know, like The Mandalorian Season 2 and Season 1 were great television. I mean, it was some of the best Star Wars content ever. And even Tales of the Jedi is fantastic. But there's lower level shows like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and even now the Andor show. A lot of people will fight to the death and say that the Andor show is the greatest show of all time. But you can't deny the fact that it's a Star Wars show without Star Wars attributes. Now, it doesn't make it a bad show. Don't get me wrong. I liked the Andor show. Andor was a good show. Borderline great show. But it lacked Star Wars. And I know people get mad when I say stuff like that. But let's be real. Star Wars is the key elements to creating a Star Wars project is, of course, existing in the Star Wars galaxy. But the Force, the mystery of the Force, lightsabers, Jedi, Sith, like just, it's science fiction, not just science or just fiction. It has to happen in a Star Warsy way to be considered Star Wars. If any of that makes sense, please tell me in the comments, because I don't know. I can't explain it, but the Andor show just lacks that one thing. And I don't know what that one thing is, but it's lacking it. And it doesn't make it a great show like The Mandalorian Season 2. Now tell me if I'm wrong, because I know those Andor fans are crazy. Maybe they think I'm wrong. But I have to tell you guys again, I don't think I've ever been wrong about anything in my entire life. I've never said one thing wrong ever. You gotta remember that. So, all right, we gotta talk about this one last thing. What's going on with my microphone now? There we go. We gotta talk about this one last thing, and before we get on out of here, because it's getting late and I got things to do, people to see, places to go, people to see, places to go. We gotta talk about this one last thing. So we might be getting a Mandalorian Season 3 trailer on Christmas. Now, I was thinking about going live also this week on Thursday. What do you guys think? Want to go live on Thursday as well? Because there's a ton of Star Wars news coming out right now, and I can't even cover it all today. We've already been going for an hour, and I feel like I haven't covered it all yet. But I also want to go live on Thursdays moving forward, because I just feel like Tuesdays and Thursdays is the ideal way to go. It's a day in between, and people who don't get to come on Tuesdays can come on Thursdays. Maybe even I'll do a Friday. Who knows? Who knows? What do you guys think? Thursday stream? Friday stream? Anything? Because I think we should definitely go again this week, just to cover all the news. But also, we're getting a Mandalorian Season 3 trailer on Christmas, and that's all but confirmed. This is actually an older report about this, but it's actually pretty wild. If I can even... Where is this? Huh. Hang on. Let me try and find this. I can't find the article where I saw this, but I know for a fact that we are definitely getting a Season 3 trailer on Christmas. It's like a Christmas Eve, Christmassy present for us Star Wars fans. It's a trailer for The Mandalorian Season 3. So, I mean, Christmas Day is going to come, and we're going to have to cover it. And it's going to be like the greatest present ever, because The Mandalorian Season 3 trailer is going to be whack. Obviously, they wouldn't give us another trailer so quickly if they weren't going to show us something epic. So I think that trailer is going to be bonkers and very, very cool. So yes, we have to talk about that trailer, and I think we should do that on Thursday. What do you guys think? I'm thinking Thursday, maybe Friday. Thursday, maybe Friday at 1 p.m. As always, we'll be here at 1 p.m. All right, I'm gonna get on out of here. I'm gonna get on out of here. Watch out for a video coming maybe later today, possibly tomorrow, talking about Ahsoka, and literally these leaks are absolutely wild. I also have another video in the works about Finn. Yeah, a sequel video. Wild. But it could be kind of a good thing. Finn and possibly his parents. I'll leave it at that, because somebody actually put in the comments section a crazy theory about Finn and his mom and who his mom might be, and I'll leave it at that, because his mom could be absolutely somebody wild, and it could actually affect Star Wars in a big, big way. So I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you guys for sticking around. Love these live streams. It's so much fun. Star Wars Politics, quick shout out to you guys. Go subscribe over there. It's Star Wars Politics. Brandon, love to see you. Darth Lopez, I hope that lunch was fantastic. I'm going to get on out of here. May the Force be with you. Oh, wait. Smash the like button. Immediately. Like now. And hit subscribe if you want to see my pretty face in that recommended feed of yours, of course. Alright. I'm going to get on out of here. May the Force be with you.